Before you guys get mad at me in the comments below, I want to say that I personally like Revenant. This isn't a rage bait title, but there is a legitimate large part of the community that is saying that Revenant is either boring, he's too powerful, or some even saying that he's underpowered. Revenant has been a big discussion recently for the past couple years, I would say, ever since usage rates came out and people saw how much that Warframe players used Revenant. And I kind of want to talk about that today. First off, I want to talk about why he's used so much. Then I kind of want to get into why people are saying he's boring, then why people are saying he's overpowered, and even possibly why people are saying he's underpowered. Because it's all relevant to the ultimate discussion of, is he actually boring? Is he a good frame? Or whatever you want to say. So let's get right into it. First off, we're not going to hide behind anything here. We're going to get right into it. The reason that Revenant is used so much is because of his number 2 ability, the Mesmer Skin. Mesmer Skin, if you're unfamiliar with it, basically gives you like 6 stacks at max level that makes you completely immortal to damage. You cannot take damage when you have a Mesmer Skin stack active. If you get shot, it goes away, and then you're immortal for 3 seconds. And if you get shot again after those 3 seconds, then you take no damage for the next 3 seconds, and so on until you're out of stacks. And it's a pretty cheap ability because, like I said, it's number 2 ability, so it doesn't cost much energy, and you can essentially spam it for all of time. And it makes you functionally immortal. Now, there are certain ways to die. First off, while you're actually activating the ability, it has like a start time of like 1.5 seconds. And in those 1.5 seconds, enemies can kill you while you're using the ability. So if you're on a very high level mission, like level cap, they might just one-shot you while you use it if you use it in front of a horde of enemies. Number 2 is that there are certain enemies and Xmas that can strip you of your abilities and not let you use abilities. Like Stalker can do it as well, or some of the shield Xmas can do it if you get within their shield range. So it can be taken away from you, then you can get killed in that scenario. But besides for those 2 scenarios, you can take no damage while Mesmer Skin is active, which makes him very popular among new or casual players. Actually, I like using Revenant because it allows me to do pretty difficult missions without having to worry about my health. And with Revenant, his skill floor is extremely low. Anyone can use Revenant and be good with him. All you have to do really is actually click that number 2. You don't have to mod him correctly. You don't have to invest a ton of time in learning how to use him. You don't have to combine a bunch of abilities together and make him powerful. If you can hit the number 2 on your keyboard with a max level Revenant, you can probably do most of the things in the game without much trouble. And that's why he's used so much, because he allows players who aren't as invested into the statistical side of Warframe, the modding side of Warframe, the whatever side of the sweaty, tryhard, whatever you want to say, side of Warframe. It allows those players to play in-game content confidently and with ease, or maybe not with ease, but allows them to play without dying every 5 seconds, and for them to kill enemies and get good loot. So that's why Revenant's one of the most used frames. And not only that, but his Mesmer Skin has a mod that you can get from one of the factions. I'm sorry, I don't know which one right now off the top of my head, but he does have a mod that allows you to give your entire party Mesmer Skin, which basically makes you all immortal. So he's a really good frame for casuals, and that's why he gets played so much. And there's nothing wrong with that, because there should be frames that are geared towards newer players. Now Revenant, or casual players, maybe not newer, because Revenant is a pretty hard frame to get. And Revenant Prime, in my opinion, is far easier to get than the actual Revenant. If you're grinding for base form Revenant in the game, it's going to take you a very long time to actually get the standing in the Plains of Eidolon to actually get him. It's kind of a way too long grind. So I just have Revenant Prime myself. But if you're a casual, he can absolutely carry you, and it's awesome. Now that is where the allegations come in, though, where people are frustrated. His ability to carry casuals so effectively have a lot of people saying he's too overpowered. They say, how is it fair that this Warframe, fresh, just opened up fresh, no mods on it, can make you immortal? That's not fair. That is too powerful. How can this brand new Revenant beat any mission in the game, essentially, with no problem, as long as you have some way of dealing damage along with your immortality? Then you have the people saying he's boring. Revenant only has one ability you have to click. You just have to hit Mesmer Skin. Forget about the rest. Forget about Enthrall. Forget about Reeve. Forget about Dance Macabre, however you say it, I apologize. Forget about those abilities. All you do is hit 2, so he's boring. And then you have the people saying he's actually underpowered, who say Dance Macabre is his kill skill, and it scales very poorly unless you build for it. But Dance Macabre is not a very good number 4. And Revenant can't kill people at high level with his abilities unless he enthralls them and then uses Reeve on them. So because of that, Revenant's actually underpowered, and at a certain level in Warframe, if you're like a super tryhard, super sweaty, super into the modding, every frame is going to be somewhat immortal. It's going to be hard to die very late in the game. So they're saying the immortality that Revenant has isn't worth the trade-off of not doing a ton of damage. So those are the 3 stances, and I want to talk about all 3 of them. The first one I want to talk about is that Revenant is overpowered. And that right away, I have to disagree with for a couple different reasons. First off is Revenant makes you immortal. That's a very good ability. But there's so many different frames that you can make extremely good. If you find a tryhard at the game, not even a tryhard, just someone that spends a little time modding, most of the frames in the game can nuke entire rooms, which is already more overpowered than Revenant, right? If you can just empty out an entire room with one nuke ability, then you don't need to be immortal. Everything's dead. Why would you need to be immortal? Why do you need to not take damage if you kill everything that can deal damage to you? If there's nothing to deal damage to you, then there's no point in having a high defense, right? So there's tons of frames that can do that. So right there, it's like, no, I don't agree the Revenant's overpowered. And then another stance I have that goes along the same side, like the same scenario there, isn't that Revenant is overpowered, but people are mad that he's so easy to use, and that's what makes him overpowered, because he can be overpowered. Because let's talk about it real quick. A very well modded Valkyrie is probably going to be better than a very well modded Revenant. However, an unmodded Revenant is 10 times better than any other unmodded game any other unmodded Warframe in the game. So people are kind of irritated that new players can do in-game content. They feel slighted, or not new. I keep saying new. I mean to say casuals. That casual players can do in-game content with Revenant when they had to work hard to make different frames effective at the end game. They're like, why can they just use Revenant and play everything I can play? And I guess I understand. If you're playing a hard, level or a hard mission, you want to feel like that you earned it to beat it, that you worked hard to beat it, that took a lot of skill to beat it. But with Revenant, you don't need any of that, because if you have the number 2 ability, then fuck everything, fuck building a mod, fuck skill, you're going to win anyway. But at the same time, Warframe isn't a skill-heavy game. I do want to say that really quick, guys. Warframe is a knowledge-heavy game. You have to know how to build things, you have to know how to get mods, you have to know where to put mods, you have to know where to put forma. Warframe is all preparation, very little actual execution. Because you can be pretty bad at aiming a weapon, you can be pretty bad at movement, and none of that matters in the late game because you're just nuking rooms or you're immortal. So it's like, who cares how good you are at actual skillful things? You don't need to aim that well, you don't need to parkour that well, you don't need that shit, right? So it's not a skillful game. The only thing holding people back is the knowledge. So that's why I'm okay with Revenant being so good for casual players, because not every player wants to invest so much time in learning the numbers and learning the mods or grinding for the mods they need to make another frame good to be effective at the high levels. Why shouldn't someone just be allowed to have a frame to just play through all the content with? What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that, because it's not a skill-based game, right? It's not. There's no skill in Warframe, or there's very little skill in Warframe. It's all knowledge-based. And you can complain, you can be mad like, hey, I have a lot more knowledge, so it's not fair that these guys without knowledge can do the same content I can do. But guess what? They're probably doing it a lot slower than you. They're using Revenant to get their immortality, but guess what? That mission takes them 20 minutes, probably takes you 4 minutes with the nuke frame you built. So what's wrong with that, right? You shouldn't be mad about that. Who cares if Revenant has a low skill floor? Who cares? Because lets casuals get to the far in the game. He's a good casual frame. Now let's talk about, is he boring? Because I think I kind of answered the overpowered and underpowered question right there. Revenant is, and I'll enter it very specifically. Revenant is overpowered for casuals and underpowered for those elite at the game. So it kind of averages out to him being in a healthy space, because not every single frame needs to be built for the sweats, and not every frame needs to be built for casuals. There can be frames built for each group on its own, and Revenant is built for casuals. Now let's talk about the boring allegations. A lot of people say Revenant is boring because his only important ability, at least, because I actually enjoy using Enthrall, and Reeve can be fun, and then, I don't like Dance Macabre because it looks stupid, but his first 3 abilities are all fun, and Thrall has a lot of fun mods you can use, but people say he's boring because the only, abilities, but, people say he's boring because the only ability you need to use is his number 2. And that is true. But is that boring? Because you say that's boring, but people spend tons of time modding a Warframe to where it just nukes entire rooms. And my question to you is how is spamming the number 2 ability, Mesmer Skin, any more boring than you just hitting number 4 and nuking an entire room? Like, what's the difference? You're both hitting one button, right? Maybe you had to do more work to where you could hit one button, but at the end of the day, the actual skill, the actual application of what you built is hitting that one button. Some frames do require you to hit multiple buttons and can combine abilities, like Vauban's a good example of that. But a lot of these frames that a lot of high-level players use, a lot of players with good knowledge, a lot of players that are elite at the game, that really love the game, that are passionate, a lot of those frames also just use one ability. And I think about it a lot because I was watching this survival mission before, and this guy was hours in, and all he was doing was standing in a hallway, hitting one ability over and over again for hours straight. He didn't move, he didn't shoot his weapon, he didn't use any of his other abilities, he used the same ability over and over again. So to me, I'm saying, how is that room nuke ability that you just use over and over again any different than Mesmer Skin? Is it because one is an offensive ability and one's a defensive ability? Is that why one's boring and one isn't? Is defense not fun but offense is fun to you? Then what does that standard does that set? Maybe some people like the idea of being immortal. Maybe they like being invincible. Maybe that's the reason that they like building defensive. Some people like defense. I played defensive tackle in college. I used to play offensive tackle. I didn't like playing offense. I like playing defense. So does that give you the right to call defense boring because you like offense more? You're doing the same thing. You're hitting the same button, maybe a different button, but you're still hitting one button over and over again. So why are you allowed to call the defense boring, but you're not allowed to call the offense boring? If one's boring, the other is boring, right? It doesn't matter how much build or work you put into building that, because in the actual application, you are doing the same exact thing. It just took more knowledge to do. At least that's my thoughts on it. But I just want to talk about this because I saw it was a discussion that I'm very, very late to be honest. I'm incredibly late, years late maybe. But I've been using Revenant a lot recently, and I don't need a Revenant to do any missions. I can use Rhino, which is kind of like my other fallback frame, or I use oh my gosh, the Caliban. I use Caliban a lot. I really like him. He's a really fun frame. It's really, really good after the rework. And they just made a Caliban Prime. Did they release that yet, by the way? I need to get the Prime version as soon as he releases because I love him. But Revenant's just cool to use. I use him to just not think while I play. When sometimes you play Warframe, I do high level stuff. I don't want to have to be focused super hard on it, I just want to have my infinite health and run through it. But that's my thoughts on the Revenant discussion. I think he's perfect as he is. I think he's a great frame for casual players. I think there should be frames geared towards casual players. I think that's healthy for the game. I think that's good for the game. I think it's good that helps people play. That he helps people play in-game content, but they necessarily don't have the knowledge or mods or the amount of time to grind to get the stuff they need to have those mods. So that's all I have for this one. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I understand the perspective he's boring. I understand the perspective that he's fun to play. I understand all perspectives. I personally in the camp of thinking that he's in a very healthy spot. I actually like where he's at. So yeah. And when you think about it, most players who play Warframe are casual, so it makes sense that a lot of players would flock towards him and use him. But that's all I have for this video. Stay blessed, stay happy. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Most importantly, guys, stay safe. Stay safe out there. It's a dangerous world. Goodbye.